everyone, and welcome to a Caregiving 101 workshop. This is getting organized, or as I like to call it, getting your ducks in a row. I am joined today with Amy B. Van Fossen from the Law Office of Amy B. Van Fossen, and Amanda Davis from Dignity Memorial. Amy's going to be speaking about estate planning and wills and trusts and all those things that we need to think about that sometimes don't get thought about till it's too late. And Amanda is also going to do along those same things, and she's going to be speaking about advanced funeral planning, which I have to say, Amanda, when my mom and dad had theirs done back in the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s, when my father passed away a couple of years ago, it just made things just so much easier for my mom in a time when she wasn't willing to. I couldn't even ask her what she wanted for lunch that day, and the day after. And she was just, inconsolable for a little bit of time. So it was so much easier to be able to bring her out. Anyway, so I'm going to start. We're going to start with the two of you, if you'd like to introduce yourselves a little bit more, and please tell me a little bit about yourselves.
I'm Amy Van Fossen. I'm an elder law attorney based in Melbourne, Florida. I'm currently behind the Melbourne Square Mall, but we're moving next month to close to downtown Melbourne. I've been an estate planning attorney for about 20 years. Prior to that, I was a Series 7 stockbroker or financial advisor. So I left that field to go into law school. I always wanted to be an estate planning attorney. We also do a ton of Medicaid and VA planning as well for seniors. So if you need to find public benefits to go into a nursing home or things like that, we do that as well. So we're pretty much a boutique elder law firm. So it's estate planning, which we're going to talk about today, the public benefits. We do a ton of probate. We work with Dignity Memorial a lot as well in that case, or in those cases, excuse me, and we do case management and guardianship. And thank you for having me.
Thank you, Amy. Amanda, tell me a little bit about yourself.
My name is Amanda Davis. I'm a family service counselor with Dignity Memorial. I currently represent Wiley Baxley on Merritt Island, Brevard Memorial Park over in Cocoa, Florida Memorial Gardens and Life Event Center in Rockledge, and then also Fountainhead over in Palm Bay. So I've got the east side covered over here. Dignity, we are the largest funeral and cemetery provider in the nation. We've got over 2,000 locations throughout the U.S. We've served every president since Eisenhower, so I consider us the Cadillac of the industry. We're always out there striving to help our families get through some of the hardest things that they're going to have to deal with in the most painless way possible. So that's where pre-planning comes in. That's where I'm going to talk to you guys a lot about. I've been in the industry myself almost 14 years now, so I have dealt with a lot of families that have pre-planned versus families that have not pre-planned. And like you said, it's a whole different world when those plans are in place. So I'm happy to be here and have the opportunity to talk to you guys more about that.
Thank you very much, Amanda. So Amy, I think you're up. If you'd like to talk to us a little bit about it. I think Amy has a couple of us as an assistant, Rachel, who's going to be operating the PowerPoint presentation. So when Rachel can share her screen, there we go.
Yep. I love technology when it works.
Oh, yes.
So my law firm is called Amy B. Van Fossen, PA. That's the corporate name. Our areas of practice are elder law, which I discussed the Medicaid and the VA planning. And coincidentally, if you have a prepaid funeral, it is excluded asset under the Medicaid rules. So we're always pushing people to do prepaid funerals. If it's an irrevocable contract, and it could be worth several thousands of dollars, we do not have to count it on a Medicaid application. So one of the Medicaid techniques is to send someone to their favorite funeral home to get their prepaid arrangements in place. We're going to talk a lot about estate planning today. We also do probate. We do some litigation. Case management is we're rent-a-daughters effectively. If you've got older folks in town who are not managing their worlds well, we can keep them out of guardianship by doing case management. We do guardianships, and that's usually a court intervention sort of thing for seniors who are not making good decisions for themselves. And on occasion, we'll do a silver divorce. So that's sort of our practice areas. We don't do corporate law or criminal law or bankruptcy. We're pretty much just an elder law firm. I get asked all the time the difference between an estate planning attorney and an elder law attorney. So a lot of attorneys will do estate plans, and that's, again, what we're talking about today, where we're writing wills and trusts and things like that. An elder law attorney is more specialized area, and that's when we look at the money. We look at how do we get Medicaid to pay for mom's nursing home care? How do we get the VA to contribute some funds towards an assisted living or a nurse to come into the home? So elder law is really looking at the money and your medical needs and seeing if we can find a public benefit to cover some of those fees. A basic estate planning package in our office and in many attorneys' office all over the country as well. Every state has their own particular documents, but these are very similar. And we're going to talk about these in more detail today. Is the revocable living trust, a will or a pour-over will. The living will healthcare surrogate is everything medical. A pre-need guardian says, today I'm of sound mind. If I lose it, I appoint this person to be my guardian. The most important thing you will learn from me all day is the durable power of attorney has to be rock solid. So I'm very picky about that document. And then often we will deed a house into a trust. Quick overview of what probate is. It's the court supervised distribution of a person's assets after he or she passed away. It's time consuming, frustrating, it's public, and it's expensive. So if you have a good revocable trust and assets titled correctly, we can avoid probate. Probate in Florida takes about 12 months, give or take, and it could be $4,000 or $5,000 or more. So there are ways to avoid probate, which we're going to talk about here in a second. So my favorite thing to do and to write is a good revocable living trust. And so if you think of a trust as a bucket, and I'll usually draw it out for clients, whatever you put in that bucket avoids probate. So you can put your house in Florida, you can put your house in New York in a Florida trust. You can put a house anywhere in the United States in a Florida trust if you're a Florida resident. And whatever is in that bucket, and any like non-IRA money, whatever is in that bucket, if you pass away, transfers to your beneficiaries with no court intervention. So there's no probate that takes like 12 months. So if you have a house in a revocable trust and you pass away, you get the death certificate 10 days later, I deed it to the beneficiaries, and it can be sold the next day. Real estate in Florida is going really fast, especially Brevard County. So we can sell houses very, very quickly if you pass away and your house is in a trust. It can reduce federal estate taxes. I will never put a kid's name on a deed ever because you're ruining a lot of things. You may be ruining your eligibility for Medicaid. You could also be ruining any advantages under the federal estate tax. So if you bought a house for $100,000 and you pass away and it's worth $300,000 and your kids inherit it at your death, they inherit it at the $300,000 and never pay capital gains tax on it. If the kid's name was on the deed, they may have to pay capital gains tax. So I always tell everybody, your kids can have all your money after you pass away. It maintains your public benefits. You haven't gifted money. It also helps on the estate taxes. Trusts are also very private. So if you have to go through the probate process, all of your beneficiaries are listed on the documents that go through the court system. If your assets are all in a revocable trust, no one will really ever know what assets that you have. We do a notice of trust at the courthouse, and that's it after you die, and it doesn't talk about money at all. And it's a very rapid way to distribute your assets after you pass away. If you have minor children, it's also a great way to maybe hold some of the money back for the minor until they hit a magic age. Usually 25 seems to be a good age for kids to get money. The trustee can pay for college or a cute car or health insurance or whatever, but on their magic birthday, which could be 25, they get the balance without going through guardianship court. So you can have minors inheriting under a revocable trust and not have to worry about any more court intervention there either. The big questions for the trust is who will be your successor trustee? So the successor trustee is usually one of the kids, and it probably is the same person that's going to be the executor of your will. Sometimes when clients are elderly, I have one of the kids be a co-trustee when they sign the trust, so that if you want your daughter who lives near and she's helping you pay your bills, if you make her a co-trustee, then she can sign checks for you. But sometimes people aren't ready to give up that control. So the successor trustee is it could be a friend, it could be anybody, but it could be one of the kids. And so it says if you lose capacity or you pass away, this person steps up and manages whatever is in that trust. Generally, people know who their beneficiaries are, and the people that are stumped with this, sometimes it takes a little bit harder. or a longer time to kind of flesh out who the beneficiaries are. And a lot of times we'll push nonprofits and whatever their favorite pet projects are and things like that. But beneficiaries can be a stumbling block for a lot of people, which is odd. I think at times. I had one lady that I think we put 30 different nonprofits as a beneficiary. So it can be anything. A beneficiary, sky's the limit. You know, it could be just about anybody you want. But sometimes it's harder for some families more so than others. When you do a trust, you do a pour over will. And so the pour over will, the beneficiary is the trust, actually. If you do not do a revocable trust, we just do a regular will. And old school, it was called last will and testament, right? So again, who's going to be your executor, who's going to be in charge, and who will be your beneficiaries? So if you're just doing a plain old will, you're going to say, okay, my 3 kids are my beneficiaries. In a pour over will, you say my revocable trust is the beneficiary, and then the trust distributes to the 3 children. So the kids still get the money. It's just, do they get it quick, or do they have to pay an attorney and take about a year to get their money? So it's an interesting conversation with people. Back in the day, grandma died and there was no probate and we just took everything. And I'm like, well, it's not that way anymore. There's a lot more constraints on it. So the revocable trust is good while you're alive and kicking, incapacitated, and after you pass away. The will kind of only kicks in after you die. But the next document, the living will healthcare surrogate, is only good while you're alive. And it basically says, the living will part of it says, I want life support terminated if these certain things happen. So it's like end stage condition, terminal, or a fatal illness. The other part of that document is the healthcare surrogate. So who do you want to make medical decisions for you? This document really only kicks in if you're unable to make these decisions for you. So if you have very strong opinions on your medical needs and you have capacity, you get to, let's say, refuse cancer treatment, right? If you lose capacity, then your healthcare surrogate would kick in. So make sure whoever you appoint aligns with whatever your medical ideas are. We also slip the HIPAA release in the middle of this. And we also have some paragraphs that say that let's assume that your kids are going to be your healthcare surrogate. They can get your old medical documents as well, or medical records. So a lot of times kids will fly in and not realize mom may have an early dementia. And mom really can't explain to them what they've been talking to their doctors about. Maybe they haven't seen mom for a year or 2 because of COVID. We have some parts of this document that allows the kids to go get old medical records as well. And so we've had to do that to try to piece together what the heck's happening with some of these people. I think the next slide, sorry, is think about it and talk it over. As a law firm, we don't really care what your decisions are as long as you're making safe decisions, right? But talk to your kids about it. It isn't always the best decision to go back home and live with one of your kids who has teenagers who are super busy. And so we're moving people who maybe have been in Brevard County 20, 30, 40 years. All their friends are here, their doctors are here, their church is here. And then we move them back north in 10 feet of snow, and the kids don't have any time for their parents either, right? So talk it over with your kids, what makes sense. Do you have enough money for caregivers to come into your home? Do you want to go to assisted living? I'm ready to go to assisted living now. I want 3 meals a day and maid service. I think that sounds lovely. And there's a couple on the river, right? So I'm ready to go. I'm open to that. A lot of people are not open to that idea. So what is your family plan for aging? On the medical side, do you want to be pain-free? Do you want to be on a breathing machine or not? Do you want to have everything done for you to stay alive? Or are you at a stage in life where you just want palliative care and you're ready to go peacefully? So whatever it is, talk to your kids. Don't make me talk to your kids, because sometimes kids don't like to hear my side of this conversation. All right, then the healthcare surrogate. So the big questions: who do you want to make medical decisions for you? If your spouse has dementia, you may not want to put that spouse on some of these documents, right? And so on this particular document, I love the word or. So I have a daughter that's an attorney that's 10 feet from me, and I have a daughter that's a nurse that's in Oregon. So my healthcare surrogate says either daughter A or daughter B can make medical decisions, and it's more flexible that way. So if mom and dad are here and the kids are all back north, we want to say, okay, mom or dad or kid A or B or C, and just put them all on it. So whoever can fly here the quickest can make medical decisions. It's just a lot easier to use that document that way. If your family has really, really different medical ideas than you, then don't put them on it. I have a friend who wants a living will. Her daughter refuses a living will, so we just didn't put her daughter on it. I didn't want any conflicting ideas on that document. And you do not have to have a living will. You can say, I want life support. I want to live forever. And it's okay, right? Just tell us what you want. We're not the judge and jury. We'll put in writing whatever you want. And do you want life support terminated? So 95% of the time, people do want a living will, but we do have the occasional client that doesn't want the living will. So whichever way you want to go. A pre-need guardian is also good only while you're alive and kicking. It's one of the essential parts of an estate plan. And the pre-need guardian basically says, today I'm of sound mind. If I can no longer manage my affairs, my medical issues and things like that, this is the person that I want to be my guardian. So there's been some bad press on professional guardians in Florida. And this is a way to keep the professional guardians out of your business. And maybe you want your daughter to be your guardian. Or maybe it's your spouse who still has capacity. So you can put people in order. I want my spouse. If he's not able, then I want my oldest daughter, let's say. So it's a very good document to have in place. And it's, again, just part of the estate package. The questions is, who do you want to be your guardian? So a lot of times, like, my son is a cardiologist in Chicago. Well, that's great. He works 100 hours a week, doesn't have the time to fly here to take care of you. But your daughter, who's the teacher down the street, does have the time, right? So let's make good decisions on who should be in charge of these things and who's the backup. So maybe it's your daughter first and then the son is the backup. The most important document that we do on a daily basis, and I get asked to speak about this document, and I can't stress how important it is the durable power of attorney. They're not all written the same. So if you've got a 2-page power of attorney from Staples, it's not good enough. If you have a power of attorney written in another state, it's not good enough. And if you have a power of attorney written prior to 2011, it has to be redone. So as an elder law attorney, we put all kinds of bells and whistles in our power of attorney that another attorney, maybe a criminal attorney, wouldn't worry about. So we worry about getting the public benefits for folks. And so one of the techniques on Medicaid is, the prepaid burial. Another one is doing personal care contracts. These are things that we have our clients initial within the power of attorney, so that it allows us to look at all of the loopholes in the Medicaid law. And so I've had people wanting me to review the powers of attorney that they have, and I rarely will. I'm like, no, it's just cheaper to let me write a new one because we're so picky. We have one of the 4 attorneys in my office who is in charge of just the power of attorney and any nuances and any additions. So we know that it's a great document. If you don't have a good power of attorney and the person has no capacity, and a financial company, let's say, won't take the power of attorney, then you're looking at guardianship court, and it's very expensive. It's thousands and thousands of dollars. So the cheaper fix is just do a power of attorney. We charge like $350 in our office for power of attorney. The alternative is about a $10,000 guardianship. So it's significantly cheaper to go ahead and get the power of attorney in place. And again, they are not all created the same. I can tell you how many guardianships we've gotten because people have written their own powers of attorney, or had like a bankruptcy attorney just give them a form, and a financial company wouldn't accept it after the fact. So as long as you have capacity, we can sign new ones, and that would really push for that. And again, I'm super picky on that. A durable power of attorney is very general. Ours are about 15 pages now. There's lots of things that we have you initial. They're called superpowers, that are the new things that happened in 2011. Of my 20-year career, there's only been one document that had to be completely revamped, and it was the power of attorney in 2011. So every single one of my clients, we had to rewrite that document. So super important. And if I only could write one document for everybody, this is the one I'm picking. It's only good while you're alive, though. So once you pass away, it's no longer valid. I think the next slide will say, okay, so questions for the power of attorney. It shouldn't be the felon in the family. It shouldn't be your son who's married to a woman who loves expensive shoes, right? It has to make sense. You need to pick the person in your family who has the most financial responsibility and the most time to actually help you maneuver this stuff. So if you have to, excuse me, submit a power of attorney to an online finance company, let's say a Fidelity or a Janus, it takes a lot of time, and it's, you're on hold for a long time. So make sure whoever you pick as your power of attorney has the time to do those things. There's a lot of penalties if you abuse a power of attorney. Like if I was given power of attorney over somebody and I bought myself personally something with that power of attorney, it could be a felony. So I'm always shocked at how many kids have their hands in the piggy bank, so to speak, by using a crappy power of attorney. There are legal consequences to that. And who do you want as your backup? So it could be, okay, I have 2 daughters. It would make sense for me because I'm an attorney and a bit of a control freak. I want both of my daughters to act together on my behalf, right? So if one's going to steal my money, they're both stealing my money, kind of thing. So you can craft it however you want it. The benefits from planning ahead: we can avoid probate, we can avoid guardianship by having appropriate documents in place. You can still have control over your assets until you lose capacity, and you can of course always contribute or you can always figure out who do you want your assets to be distributed to. So you can, again, the sky's the limit on that. We want to be able to give your family members access to medical records while you're alive, so that the kids be able to piece together what's going on. And then the power of attorney allows for someone to make legal decisions for you if you're unable to. So in estate planning packages are usually 5 different documents to include a deed. We routinely deed houses into revocable trust so that it avoids the probate process. Again, what is your family plan? I don't care what it is, as long as you're safe. That is our bottom line. If you're safe, we don't care. What if you can't stay in your home any longer? What happens if your spouse can no longer care for you? We had a client who had end-stage dementia and her husband passed away of a heart attack. And so we're scrambling to find a place for this lady. And they just always assumed she would die first, and it didn't happen. And that's actually a very common thing in our office. Do you have enough money to pay for in-home care? I always suggest everyone go visit assisted living facilities. Some of them are absolutely beautiful. Get the free lunch, check out the different amenities they have. Tell your kids you want to stay in Florida if that's what you want. I would not want to be living in somebody's basement in Connecticut right now. I think I would freeze to death. I'd rather stay in Florida or wherever you're from. I'm again, Southeastern Ohio. I think we've got 10 inches of snow today. We also do seminars on the VA and the Medicaid benefits. You're more than welcome to come to our office. We do several free seminars, actually, and they're on our website. And if you want more information, you can always give us a call. And again, utilize the free seminars. If you come to a free seminar, you get a free 30-minute consultation with me. So that's a great way to waive the consultation fee. And that is about it. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much, Amy. Yeah, I touching on a couple of things with that just popped up for me. One of the things about guardianship was I understand that not only can you name a guardian, but you can also talk about who you don't want to have guardians, correct?
Right. Absolutely.
So you might have somebody that just, moves in and says, oh, I want you to be my guardian. That, it might be your son, and you're like, no, he's going to be off the list. So if the courts do get involved, they can say, no, you're not, no.
Right. And generally, the guardianship judge will generally give preference to who you have in your pre-need guardian.
Correct.
And so if you say, I want my daughter, the school teacher, and not my son, the heart surgeon, it's okay, and it'll just be a further proof that that's what you wanted. And it's a great idea. And there's reasons for all of these parts and pieces of an estate plan. They're very separate legal documents, but they all have reasons, right? And it's hard to not, when someone says, I don't want all the parts and pieces, I almost have them sign waivers saying that you don't want anyone to help you with your medical decisions, because I don't want the kids to come back and yell at me later, that why didn't you do a medical document? You did everything else. And I'll have it in writing that they chose not to do that. Right.
And some of the stuff kind of, it weaves into one another too, doesn't it? I mean, you have to,
Yes.
Some of the stuff, my husband and I just got done doing it, and I've got one son who's an attorney and another son who's a mental health clinician. And so we kind of split it down the middle, with my elder son, the mental health clinician, taking care of the healthcare surrogates and all of those pieces, and the other one that's going to kind of get the the estate and the durable power of attorney and that sort of thing, and mixing and matching. But and I also think that it was a really good that you mentioned that people need to talk this over with their family. You know, maybe
Right.
not necessarily for the decision that needs to be made, but you have to ask them too. They might not want to do it. You know.
Well, as I had mentioned prior to being recorded, that I grew up in a funeral home. And so for our family, talking about, do we want to be cremated? Do we want to be buried? Do we want to go back north? It was a very common conversation at the dinner table, right? And
Right.
people have a very difficult time talking about those things. So they also have a difficult time signing wills. I've had women just go into tears signing just a plain old will, and they're in their 90s. You know, it's like, oh, I guess I'm going to die now. That's not the case. You're just doing these things to make your kids' life easier. And if you're appointing these kids to do these jobs for you, let's give them all of the legal tools that they need to make it as easy as possible. They're already going to be very distraught if mom or dad have a medical crisis, right? So don't make it harder by not having that medical document in place, allowing them to talk to your doctors. And then, like you had mentioned, that prepaid funeral it makes life so much easier for the kids. Just everything is laid out. And so it's all of these things go together, and people will say, I just feel such a big relief now that I've signed my estate plan and I've done my prepaid funeral. And it's just like a big stress reliever for a lot of families.
Yeah.
And for the kids too.
So with that, that's a wonderful transition over. Amanda, Amanda Davis is going to speak a little bit about pre-planning funeral arrangements. So Amanda.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen with you guys. Okay. It doesn't let me see you guys anymore. Can you see it?
I cannot see the screen.
Uh-oh.
Rachel, did you share the screen?
Amanda's listed as the host. So if you,
Okay.
I am, and it's
you scroll down to the bottom where it says share screen, there you go. And yes, we can still see you in the corner.
okay. Bear with my little technological difficulties.
Oh, we're all going to be, it's all okay. You know, compared to what we would have done 3 years ago, we're all experts at this.
Yes.
Yeah, you know, it's a learning process, though, I'll tell
Isn't
you.
it, though?
All right. Well, thank you again for having me here. I'm here to talk about pre-planning. You know, like Amy said, this stuff all goes hand in hand. She handles so much of the gift of taking care of things before death occurs, and handling those things in advance is a huge gift, just as pre-planning is. What is pre-planning? Basically, it is making the advanced plan for your cremation or your funeral. It sounds super simple, but believe it or not, if you've never had to plan something like that, there is actually so much involved with even the most basic of arrangements. You know, Dignity is wonderful. They have made it really simple for people, or broken it down to make it as simple as possible. Basically, we break down things into 4 steps. Firstly, reflecting. Taking a look at your life, your legacy, the things that make you who you are, your joys, your people, your, you know, all those things, and taking a look at those and making a determination based on that kind of stuff and your family on what's best for you guys and best on that. And kind of starting there, just making the decision as far as what you want to be the ultimate outcome. And then from there, securing those arrangements, recording those arrangements and securing those arrangements, writing stuff down, putting things into a trust, putting things into a will, and then of course, making plans as far as what exactly you want to happen with your cremation or with your funeral. I'll talk a little bit later about our pre-planning guides, which we have one for everybody. And then we have one that's also for our veterans. Like you, Amy, we work really closely with the veterans to make sure that they're receiving the right information as far as what they're entitled to when it comes to death, and how to get those benefits and make sure that they're able to easily. Securing those arrangements is basically the process of taking care of the financial aspect of it. When it comes down to it, we are all kind of, it's a responsibility that we're born with, handling this stuff for ourselves. And unfortunately, more people don't think of it that way. But at the end of the day, it's something that we're guaranteed to have to deal with. And so getting that out of the way ahead of time is one of the best ways to handle it. And then sharing what you've done, sharing those plans with the people closest to you, with that special person, not your outlaw family member, again, that person who may be in charge of handling these things later, or may need to know where these things are kept in the home, or may need to know exactly what's going to happen. I think as a society, when it comes to death planning, we are all afraid to talk about it. And again, because everyone thinks they're going to die once it happens. I always tell people, I got bad news for you. It's going to happen anyways. So there's no reason for us not to prepare for these things. So I'm happy to be here talking about it today. I'm going to show you guys a little video. It's super fast, like 2 minutes. I think it's really great to hear other folks talk about their experiences with pre-planning, because that's where it all comes from. Is like I said, I've seen thousands of families sit at my table, some with this done and some without it done. And it makes a huge difference in the experience that they have making these plans. So I just want to share this with you guys real quick.
Oh, Amanda, I'm not getting the volume.
Okay.
And I'm not sure whether or not this is going to work, actually.
Amy, are you hearing the volume at all?
No.
Okay. So maybe it's because of the duplicate thing.
Yeah, I'm not sure whether or not we can record a video.
It's okay. Okay, well, I'll skip past that part anyways. Basically, these family members are just talking about what they have encountered. And it's the daughter talking and a spouse talking, and about how having these things in order kept them from having to make the decisions when they're already in a moment of grief, when they're already at a loss, when they can't think at all about what's going on, because these are the people that until this moment they've made every single decision with, for maybe the past 50 years, 30 years, whatever. And all of a sudden that person's not there to help them with these decisions anymore. And so that's where it can come down to making this terrible, stressful event something so much worse or something so much better.
Let me bounce in a little bit, Amanda, just to as an insert where the video would have been. I've said before at the beginning that my mom and dad had the funerals pre-planned for a very long time, and it was a real relief when where my father was living at the assisted long-term care facility where my dad was. From the point that he passed away, it was literally out of our hands with having to worry about any of it. We told the nurses who to call, and it was taken care of, and everything was gentle, and it was well taken. And the next day, Mom and I went over, and I think Mom got a little kerflumped when she saw Dad's handwriting, because there's some documents that you have to review, and so I think that kind of made it caught both of us in our throat a little bit to see Dad's handwriting. But it was so much easier. And I know of friends who have not had that in place. And in addition to it being just really overwhelming at the time, it can cause some real problems between family members too. What do you mean we're going to have mom cremated? What do you mean?
That's actually something I was gonna.
Yeah. So let's talk about that a little bit. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up, because and I'm glad you've had a best case scenario with that being done. I like kind of how you said that Mom saw handwriting and it kind of got to her heart a little bit. In our personal planning guide, there's a spot in there where at the very end of the book, it's all informational and it's all these things that everyone needs to know, and that's great. But at the end of the book, it's got this spot where you can just write a little last something. And what happens is these family members are picking up these books after the fact and then reading that, and all of a sudden it becomes this memory of them, and this special thing. And so I think that's something that's amazing. But like you said, in the case when this stuff is not handled, these families they sit down at my table, and I'll tell you, I ask about 124 questions on average. when it comes to making these arrangements. And that is a whole lot of thinking for, say, a son or a daughter who, maybe their family didn't talk much about this stuff, or their loved one, or people come into the family or come into the space who have different opinions. Oh, well, Pop mentioned to me 10 years ago that this is what he wanted. Well, no, he told me on his deathbed, this is what he wanted. And then those conflicting opinions can literally become lifelong problems for that family, because nobody knew for sure, did I do the right thing? Is this what they would have wanted? And so those questions essentially remain forever.
Well, and not to interrupt you, but I have families that when the kids start fighting, we have to go to court to decide, is mom going to get cremated, or are we going to embalm her and fly her back north? And it's very expensive to go back north in that way. And so there are court cases, and pretty much it's majority rule. So if you have 7 kids and 6 want you cremated, then we have to go to court, which means we're spending lots and lots of money to make that decision. So if the families had prearranged, that would never have gone to court. And it wouldn't be, as you said, a lifelong destruction of this family. The siblings are so mad at each other because we drag them through court. They never get to repair that family relationship. So I think that's a valid point that you're making.
Yeah, I mean, what it does is it creates a lot of extra loss. They've already lost this valuable person, and then amidst it, a lot of other loved ones get lost because of the difference in opinion. So it is one of the biggest benefits to doing this stuff ahead of time. This slide here just talks about some of the most stressful events that we deal with in our lifetime, and death of a spouse or partner is the first one. Like I said, it's that person that you're the closest to, that you have made those decisions with for so many years, and all of a sudden they're not there. On the reverse, same for your kids and losing you, or that kind of thing. You're not there anymore to help with those decisions. And so there's no reason not to have made them already. At the end of the day, you've got to think about, if you've lost somebody and you have to sit down and make those arrangements. So Amy, have you had to make those arrangements yourself before?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Okay. So not only from the business side, but from the emotional side of it, you can understand how the questions hit you, how they affect you. Because there are so many, and you want to do the best for the people that you love. And so sometimes an emotional decision is made. And so this asks you, what would you do? What would you do if it is the person you love the most and you haven't talked about it? The plan isn't in place. Who do you call? What do I call? The funeral home? Do I call 911? Do I call the hospital? Who do I call? Do I know what they want? Okay, now this funeral director is asking me all these questions, but they told us we weren't supposed to talk about this stuff. If we talk about this stuff, we're in trouble, so we can't talk about it. I don't know how, what is their legacy? What is special about them? How do I commemorate that? Or do we, or where do we start? Right? It's chaos.
One of the things that I think that you mentioned, and is that there can be some emotional purchases if you don't have paid funeral arrangements. You can decide that you want the gold-plated, mahogany, leather-lined things that are going to be gazillions of dollars out of the estate. Yes. And so, because they want to do that for their loved one, and this can help. This can help you say to your kids, it's okay. A step up from a cardboard box is probably what I would tell my kids.
And you are the perfect segue, because this is about doing what's right for you. You are able, and this is the only way that you're able to say, this is what I want, and this is what's going to be done. By making the plan, securing the plan, putting it in writing, and taking the steps of legal paperwork or whatever needs to be done to make sure that when the time comes, like you said, it's just a phone call, and then everything can, play out the way it's supposed to, instead of having to jump in with all those families, or with all those questions rather, for our families. So it's about protection. We jump into those stressful situations, divorces, and accidents and injuries and things like that. And we put all these things in place, insurances mostly, right, to protect ourselves in case it happens, in case something happens to us. We've got hurricane insurance, flood insurance, or we've got whatever we've got put in place. There is absolutely no reason in that way of thinking that we should not be planning for the inevitable, planning for, again, that one thing that we know for sure is coming to us. And as I tell people, it's just like your light bills and your house payment. You don't call up your family members saying, hey, can you pay that payment for me? It's our responsibility as people. And so it's something that we should all be tackling like every other important thing in our lives. We've talked a lot about what it keeps from happening. They're not going to make those emotional decisions, the emotional decisions and the emotional purchases. Like you said, just having that grief on your mind and the need to portray your loved one the way you see them in your mind and to show everybody the love that you feel for them can make things more extravagant. And more extravagant maybe than that person even would have cared to have. So again, this is a way to make sure that what you want is satisfied, and then what's best for your family is also in play. It takes away those lifelong questions of, did I do it right? Is this right? And those ones that stick around, there's no second guessing. They told you what they wanted, you said what you wanted, and now it can all play out. And then one of the best parts is when when you make your arrangements and you start that process of securing, you stop the cost of inflation from going up. So especially when you start these a little younger, you have essentially a built-in guarantee of staying with today's prices. I tell people, this industry can essentially double or so every 10 to 12 years. And that's not an exaggeration. It goes up quite drastically. And so there is no way that people can't afford this, because there's so many different ways that it can be broken down to make it affordable for everybody, no matter what their wishes are. As opposed to somebody passing away maybe suddenly and walking into the funeral home and having to pay every dime of that money up front before anything else can happen. So it's just securing not only the wishes, not only the emotional grief aspect, taking that away, but also the financial aspect of it. So like I talked about before, the 4 steps of kind of getting this stuff in order. I like it. People like simple, and I like that it's made easy for us to kind of tackle. I have that pre-planning guide for any of you guys who want that. Get in touch with me. I have one for everybody. And like I said, the veterans guide that goes along with it. It really covers a place to put all of that important stuff, the stuff that you're doing with Amy and all of the other social media contacts and online presences and insurance contracts and credit cards and all the little things that somebody has to go dig up for you into one spot. So it's not hours of research. And I'll tell you, it took me hours to fill out my own information when I filled it out, because there is so much today. And it got me, even me thinking, why on earth would I let someone I love have to dig for all this info while going through what they're going through because I'm not there. So the planning guide is amazing. It gives you the opportunity also not just to talk about what you want as far as your funeral or cremation, but what you want to happen afterwards. That's a big part of the decision, and just as big a part of the decision as, do I want to be buried or cremated? What's going to happen to me afterwards? And I'll tell you, the options are endless. And so it is worth thinking about and making decisions on. We have options. We have multiple private cemeteries. We have access to help our veterans that want to be part of the national cemetery or any national cemetery. And we have all the applications to help them, get the spots that they want. So it helps with just facilitating the conversation for a lot of families. The veterans guide that we provide, like I said, it kind of works hand in hand with the pre-planning guide. And it is wonderful because it really goes into detail about everything that our veterans are entitled to and the myths about what they're not entitled to. Unfortunately, there is a misconception that everything is taken care of by the VA when it's actually not handled that way. And so we do offer this, and we also do a bunch of presentations and seminars on the VA side of everything, what we can do to help, and all the forms and documents that are in that veterans planning guide to help our veterans. So I've got that as well for anybody who needs that. As far as securing, there is no reason not to talk to a counselor. Our wishes are going to be different. The things that we need for our families are going to be different. And so talking to somebody like myself who has knowledge and can help guide you through the process makes it so much simpler in sometimes even deciding what's to happen. And then from there, you can get an idea of what things are like today, of what costs are for what you want to happen. And from there, there's the option, like I mentioned before, to get it handled, even through payments. So there are ways to make it doable for everybody because it has to be done eventually. Sharing is super important. We talked a little bit about it. You got to get the word out. It doesn't do any good if nobody knows that this exists or knows that it's in place. And so take that person that's closest to you, your executor or whomever, and let them know this is done. Let them know what, as far in detail as you want to, but let them know it's done, where everything lies, and who to call so that question's not there when something happens. I call pre-planning the biggest gift that you can give. And even during Christmas time, I was saying the same thing, promoting people, because it takes away the biggest burden that they're ever going to face, essentially. I'm 35 years old. I've had this done for over a decade. And when I found out about the importance of pre-planning, I went home, I threw a big old barbecue, and I said, hey guys, we're making decisions. And let me tell you, the thoughts that came out of my family members, some of them thought they were going to be buried in their cars in the backyard kind of thing. So, it's funny what people kind of think and the misconceptions that are out there. So talking about it and then getting it handled is literally one of the biggest things that we can do for each other and for our families. A big part of it is who you choose to work with. You got to work with somebody that you trust. These are people who are going to be handling, again, some of the most important matters of your life. And so you want to be with people who are going to handle you with care. Dignity, and I'm happy to work for Dignity. I have worked with other firms, and Dignity really does everything at a higher standard. We're there with you through the entire process, before, during, everything, years and years after, and for generations after, for so many of our families, helping every single member of their family that has to go through these things. Because we have such a large network of facilities, we're one of the only firms that can offer away from home protection and travel protection and bereavement travel. If you pass away somewhere other than you're expected to, we can move arrangements to another funeral home and guarantee the prices. Things like that other firms aren't able to provide because there aren't enough of them, essentially. And then we have a lot of different programs that help with the grief that comes afterwards. We have a 24-hour hotline, the grief support hotline, that is literally people with a master's degree or higher ready to help people 24 hours a day if they just need someone to talk to in the middle of the night when that stuff gets heavy and hard and you don't want to, call up your family members because you're afraid to burden them. We have people that can help with that. The bereavement travel gets people, where they need to go. We take care of the plans for the flights, hotels, car rentals, and a lot of times we can find discounts on that stuff. Anything we can do to make it easier on our families to handle this stuff. There's so much, but there are so many ways to make it easier on ourselves. Choosing the right provider and just getting it pre-planned is literally the biggest way that you can protect your family. So that's about it. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you so much, Amanda. One of the things that I think for both Amy and Amanda, I've realized is that as a culture, Western society does a really horrible job of this third of our lives. We are so youth oriented, and it's just there are other cultures on this planet that do a much better job of acknowledging and valuing the conversations and making it be okay. There are certain things in the Western culture that we find taboo to talk about, and money and death and illness and religion, politics, and sex come to mind too, but those are entirely different conversations. But we really are hung up on this stuff, and it's and that does not make it any easier. So
yeah, if we talk about it, we don't know about it.
right, exactly. And we have Mike and I, my husband and I, still have to get around to doing the funeral pre-planning, but we it's on our list of stuff to look at right now. We thought 1 year. We just got our estate planning buttoned up, and so the next plan is to do that. And you're absolutely right, Amanda. The great part about when my mom and dad had theirs done so long ago, the woman that we were working with at the funeral home said, now it would have cost you this much money when it only cost them that much money back because they had done it 30 years ago. And wow,
that savings can be huge. I mean, I deal with contracts that were written 50 years ago, 60 years ago, when they were paying, a couple $100s for services that are thousands today, or graves that were, $100, and today they're $6,000. So getting those things handled is huge.
And if you don't have an arrangement, then you can do it with a payment plan. It's not like everybody, if you do a pre-plan, you can do it. Whereas if you die, then that family is going to have to somebody in that family is going to have to write that check. They're not going to be able to wait for probate to go through. And,
absolutely, right away.
And sometimes the estates might not be large enough by the time you're done with all of the expenses you have in this 1/3 of our lives. I had not expected when my dad got sick that he was going to be that sick for that long. And 2 years was a long time to have my dad in private pay. And so it's one thing you might think, oh gee, we got plenty of money in the estate. Maybe not, so you got
and
money
actually,
on the front end of it.
On that note as well, we have a lot of families that prefer to use life insurance or sort of purchase life insurance to use for these benefits. But and that's a great thing. Get life insurance, everybody. But the only problem with using it to pay for final arrangements is that most of them require a death certificate to issue a claim. And unfortunately, we require services to be paid in full before they're rendered, which is before we can get a death certificate. So a lot of families end up having to pay anyways and be reimbursed later on by the insurance company, which they don't expect sometimes, and that's a huge burden when you're not expecting it or when you think it's covered.
Yeah, and sometimes the life insurance, the beneficiary may say, hey, mom has given me this $10,000 life insurance, but I'm not paying for the funeral, right? Absolutely. Even though that was mom's intent. And I see that quite often too.
Yes,
and so unless like the funeral home's the beneficiary, which we don't want to do, but there's just ways to make all of this planning make sense and get exactly what you want. And exactly the things that you want. If you put it in writing, it just takes a little bit of time and energy to come and see me and come and see Amanda and get all these things together. But what I see is when someone has passed away, how easy it is for the kids when everything was pre-planned, right? And exactly what they want. I mean, I think that my horror story is we let one of my sisters pick my mother's headstone, and I go to see it in Ohio, and there's a cat on it, and I'm like, what on earth? She loved cats, but she was a teacher. She started Girl Scouts in our hometown. She was a wonderful mother. She was a great grandmother too. And this is what we're going to know her as, is a cat woman, and I'm like, those are the kinds, you can avoid the cat lady, tombstone thing. I was just shaking every time. I just shake my head, go, oh my gosh, there's cats on this tombstone. So those are the things you can talk about with Amanda so that you don't get surprised to see your mother's headstone with a cat on it. So
let's avoid cat headstones.
Yeah, I mean, you have to, I grew up in a funeral home, so death and dying is just a normal conversation with us, but we have to take the taboo away. We have to honor our seniors, honor our, our parents and our elderly folks in the community. And one way of doing that is for the elderly people to step up to the plate and say, this is how I want to be remembered. I don't want to be remembered as the cat lady. I want to be remembered as this wonderful mother or the Girl Scout leader or whatever. You're just taking such a huge burden off from the kids. And it's a lot of time the kid with the biggest pocketbook, the kid that pays for the funeral, starts dictating these kinds of things, and the other kids are kind of pushed to the side. So it's so much easier, even as the professionals working with the families after the fact. It's easier for us if everything's put in place and beforehand. Not that it's all about us, but it certainly can be a lot cheaper and a lot less stressful from beginning to end if you get all of your ducks in a row and tell your kids you don't want the cat on the headstone. Right?
Yes, absolutely.
You gotta laugh about this stuff.
Absolutely. That's the problem with it, right? Is we're all too uptight about it, too scared of it, and we don't want to ask the questions, and so no one knows. So yeah, we gotta lose the taboo, guys. We gotta get.
We all know we're gonna die. Nobody thinks it's gonna be tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
We're all one day closer.
Right. It could be a lot closer. So Amy, you're right. Elders should think about it, but who defines older? Who defines an elder?
Well, as I get older and older, that number keeps going up and up,
Right.
So I'm in my 50s, but you're old till you're 80.
Look at Bob Saget, who just passed away, and we're taping this in early January. Who would have thought at 65 he would be gone?
We had a lot of women in their 50s die of COVID this year, and 50 is right in my wheelhouse, and it was very, very stressful for my firm and for me. I took it personally. You just don't know. There's the car wrecks, there's the crazy accidents, there's COVID, there's cancer, all of this stuff, and there's no crystal ball. I mean, you don't know if you're going to be in a nursing home for 5 years and go broke, right? You don't know. You're 35 and get cancer and pass. And so it's just better to talk to your families about it. And I think that's my biggest headache is people are so closed-minded about this. And my family was so open, apparently not knowing about the cat thing, but, our family was a lot more open. My dad was a funeral director, wanted to be cremated and thrown in the ocean. He was in the Navy. And so that's what we did for him. And the other thing is, and Amanda probably will say the same thing, we're not the judge and the jury. Our job is to do whatever you guys want, and I put it in writing and I make sure this happens. And I'm sure, Amanda, you write the contracts, so we're not putting a cat on the tombstone or whatever. And we don't judge you, so you can tell us anything that you want. I have clients that are going to be cremated and they're going to be buried with their cat's ashes, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, it's whatever you want. It's not my job to tell you that being buried with your cat's ashes is wrong. It's my job is to say, okay, let's do that. Let's set you up with Amanda. Let's put this stuff in writing and talk to your veterinarian as well. But whatever it is, I mean, our job is to just do whatever you all want. And we're not judging. We're not, you want to be put in the ocean? Great. We have a guy that's going to go up in the space in a satellite or something. That's a possibility. So whatever
doesn't matter what you're planning, as long as you're making the plan.
And it's not that we don't care. It's just that it's not our place to judge you. Our place is to put into writing whatever you want, as crazy as it is. If it's legal, okay, let's go for it. Right? Yeah. But we hear everything, and nothing will shock me at this point. I'm sure, Amanda, you're the same way. So
absolutely. I mean, life and death, it's a personalized affair, guys. It's very personal, and it's very different for each person. And there's a beauty in that,
Right. So, and every day we're one day closer. So, we're not getting out of this life alive for sure. Nope. And so what do you want to do? And I'm not a cat person. Please don't put the cat on my headstone. I've got my dog at my feet right now.
Oh yeah. So I have a quick little story. We had a woman that worked for me when I lived and worked up in New England, and she was my comptroller in the agency I worked for, and she passed away at work. And 2 weeks before the end of our fiscal year. And so one of the things that we had to make sure we had in place, and what I told all of the folks that then worked at the agency was, we're all going to do a hit by the bus thing. And I want to see on everybody's hit by the bus folder, what happens if I get hit by a bus? you know.
Well, and that's where my estate plan comes in, because I've got dividers in the estate plan, and there's a place so you can put your prepaid burial and stuff like that. There's also a letter to the kids, right? So you can do a handwritten, please don't fight, I really don't want the cat on my tombstone, you know, those kinds of things. And it actually means a lot to the kids, and it's hard for the parents to write it, but the ones that actually sit down and write it, it's in mom or dad's handwriting, right? That's the handwriting thing. And it just takes a lot of the heat off of the kids. And the last thing that we want is for us to give our kids more of a headache or more stress. It's already super emotional when you lose a parent, and to not have your stuff together, and the kids just don't know what they're doing. You're adding so much more stress to the family. And again, there's probably one kid with a credit card that ends up paying for everything.
Well,
right? And so you're burning them.
You were saying before that, you know, the kid with the credit card winds up paying for everything, and that might be why the kid with the credit card figures out he can make the decision, and the kid with the credit card says, "Yep, no, I'm going to want that." You know, I like cats. I don't care if mom likes cats. There's cats going on the headstone. You guys want to pay for this?
God, I know. We had a family that it took about 2 months of them fighting whether mom would be cremated. And so for 2 months, she's basically at the funeral home in their facility, you know, and they're having to pay rent. And finally, the folks that wanted mom to be cremated won out. But it was 2 months of so much emotional stress on all of the children. It was a large family. All of the kids were so stressed out, and there was one holdout that wanted mom to go back north to whatever state they were from. And I finally told that child, I said, okay, you pay the funeral home. It costs a lot of money to be embalmed and flown back north. You write the $10,000 check or whatever it was. I can't remember the fee at the time. And he's like, well, I don't have any money. I want the estate to pay for it. There was zero money in the estate to pay for it. So that child, I mean, well, she's supposed to be up here. And I'm like, she's been in Florida for 30 years. That's not where she wants to be, you know? And so again, it just talk to your family.
Yeah, just a great example of those differences in opinions, you know, or the ideas that people might have in their head that, you know, are so different from the actual wanted plan.
And
Well, and the whole time, mom was at the funeral home for 2 months.
Right. Yes.
While the kids were fighting. I mean, their mother did not want to be at the funeral home for 2 months, you know, and the whole 2 months, I think there were 7 or 8 children in the family. It was a headache. So, and too much stress.
All of this stuff really is, as much as it's for ourselves, it is really for those people that we love. You know,
when I write,
and I'm gone. You know, I'm probably the one that's going to matter the least to wherever I am. You know, as far as the angst and the worry and the all of those pieces parts. So yeah, you're right. Both of you mentioned it's a gift to be able to say, yes, this is what mom wants. This is what dad wanted. Wow, what a gift. So I thank you very much. Speaking of gifts, I thank you both very much for joining me today. And this of our caregiving, we also have caregiving conversations, but this is Caregiving 101. And I would suggest that anybody wants to take a look at this series. The 4th series will be next week, and it will be on taking care of, keeping your well full and taking care of yourself as caregivers, and support groups and networking, and the importance of fitness and nutrition and all of those pieces to be able to help you continue to take care of your family members. So anyway, Amanda, Amy, thank you very much. Have a wonderful rest of the day. Bye-bye.
Thank you for having us. Bye-bye.
Bye.